What's up guys, Marco here, welcome back to another lesson. Let's take a look at some of the most beautiful and romantic chords that we can play on the guitar. So what is the most romantic chord? Well, it's definitely the major 7 chord. Just think about the chord progression I just played. We mainly have 2 chords, D major and G major. So we are in the key of D major and we have chord 1 and chord 4. Now these 2 chords can be transformed from major to major 7th chord, and we already change the way the chord progression sounds. Let's give it a little bit of context, rhythm, and melody to make the most out of these 2 chords. Let's start with the intro. We have 3 chords. The first one is the D major. And then we change the D major into D major 7 chord. That's super cool, very simple. Now, in the intro, we're not gonna play the G major 7 yet. And that's a cool thing because we wanna always diversify the chord progression. The fact that we are learning major 7th chords, it doesn't mean that we're only gonna use major 7th chords. So the G is very simple, just 4 strings. And then we go back to the D major 7, which this time we're gonna play without the 3rd, and we play the fret 5 on the 1st string. And then the G6, beautiful sounding chord. It's a nice intro, but it sounds nicer if we played with a finger picking pattern. We are in 3/4, so we're gonna assign a 3 notes pattern to this chord progression: thumb and ring, middle, and index. Now we're gonna use the thumb only one time at the beginning when we change chord, and then we're only gonna keep ring, middle, and index. So we have D major, D major 7, G major. The G major is 4 measures, so we're gonna play it 3 times, 2 and 3, and then a melody on the 2nd string, fret number 3, and 1st string open. Then we go again. D major 7 and G6, 3 times. Now the 2nd time we're just gonna arpeggiate the chord. It sounds very conclusive. And then the melody again. It's a very simple yet interesting intro. Now we're gonna keep the same chord progression, but of course we have to add more things. So we're gonna play like this. Progression is the same, the approach though is completely different. So for the D major, we're gonna start with the usual hammer on the 1st string open, hammering the fret number 2. That's very common, especially with the D major chord. Same finger picking pattern. But then we have a melody the 2nd time with the 2nd fret, 0, and the 2nd string, fret number 3. It's just a simple melody within the chord. D major 7. And notice that sometimes I like to arpeggiate the chord with thumb, index, middle, and ring. And then we keep going with the pattern. And then we have a melody. You got 2 strings, 3rd and 1st string. We start with fret 2. So it's fret 2, 4 and 3, 6 and 5. Beautiful melody. And now finally the G major 7 chord, which we're gonna play like this: 3, 0, 0, and 2. It's a beautiful chord, but we're gonna change it very quickly here. So the idea is to change the singing note of this chord from 2 to 0, 2, and then the melody. And then we'll go back to the D major. But the melody is slightly different since we are changing the D major 7 chord. So fret number 2, 3, and 5. Put down the D major 7 chord with no 3rd. Same arpeggio. And the melody, descending melody on fret 5, 3, and 2. And then we'll go back to the G major 7 chord. Now the melody is slightly different since we are heading to a different section. So you have the melody on the fret number 3, open, and the 1st string, the fret number 5. It's obvious how the major 7 chord is not overused. Actually, we use it very little, and it's not obvious. It's not boring. We are trying to diversify the chord progression and use as many elements as possible. Now the second section open up with a completely different chord progression, so we kind of move away from this major 7 thing. It's a nice chord progression just to, give a structure to the exercise. It sounds like this. So we're playing E minor, B minor, D major, and A sus4. Beautiful chord progression. So we're gonna open up with the chord 2, and then the chord 6, chord 1, and chord 5. Now we have a melody right before that. And then we're going to play the E minor chord and a melody. So the E minor, is played with a simple triad. So you got fret 4, 5, and 3. We're also going to play the low E string just to add the bass note. The finger picking pattern is the same. Again, we can always arpeggiate the chord very quickly with thumb, index, middle, and ring. And then we have the arpeggio with the middle and index. Now the melody is played in thirds, so we got 2 notes, 3 and 5, 2 and 3, and 0 and 2. B minor chord. Now I changed the finger picking pattern here. I have thumb and ring, index and middle. But you can use the same thumb and ring, middle and index. It doesn't really change that much. Now the melody here is really interesting. We have it simultaneously with the bass, so with the B, and we got the 3rd string fret 4 and the 2nd string fret 3. Then we have 2nd string fret 2 and 1st string open, and 3 and 2. D major chord. Very simple melody. And then the A sus4 which we're gonna play like this. It's a really interesting chord. Thumb and ring, index, middle, and then the melody on the fret number 3, open, and 5. This one is definitely way more challenging than the first section. Back to the E minor, B minor, G major 7 chord, which this time we're gonna play like this. Beautiful chord. And we finish with the D major. We can strum the G major 7 lightly. Now, I did play the solo at the end of this instrumental, so we're not gonna have time to go through this, but let me know if you want me to teach you how to solo over these chords. It's a beautiful chord progression, so hopefully you're gonna like it. Now, I'm gonna leave you to practice these chords. Again, the tab is available on my Patreon page, and the tab for the instrumental as well. Usually when I teach these instrumentals, I like to sometimes change things a little bit just to make it easier. But if you wanna learn the exact instrumental, you also have a tab for that on my Patreon page. I'm gonna leave you to practice these chords. Have a nice rest of the day, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.